Most men try to win women with gifts, with looks, with charm, and that's exactly why they're forgotten. But Machiavelli saw deeper. He understood something darker, something most men will never grasp. The goal isn't to be liked, it's to be unforgettable, not by pleasing her, but by controlling what she feels when you're gone. In this video, you'll learn 9 psychological frameworks inspired by Machiavelli, designed to trigger obsession without a single word of flattery, no chasing, no performing, no begging for love. You'll learn how to become the man she can't explain, but can't stop thinking about, because once you see how this works, you'll never play the game like an average man again. The power of fear over love. There's a quote by Machiavelli: "Most men ignore, not because it's wrong, but because it's uncomfortable. It is much safer to be feared than loved." At first, it sounds cruel, something only a villain would believe, but look closer, not at what people say, but what they do. Watch how women behave around different types of men. Suddenly, it makes sense. Love feels warm, soft, safe. But when it's always there, always giving, always available, it loses its weight. It becomes background noise, comfortable, predictable, forgettable, and that's where most men fall. They think love is enough. They believe that giving more, showing more, opening more will make her value it. But what happens? She stops feeling it, because what's given freely, without challenge, holds no power. Now enter fear, not the kind that hurts, not yelling, not threats, not control. That's weakness pretending to be strength, and women can smell it instantly. Real fear is when a man has boundaries so firm she feels them without him saying a word. He doesn't raise his voice, he doesn't argue, he doesn't explain his worth. He simply moves away, and the silence teaches her what words never could. This man doesn't chase. He doesn't explain why he was hurt. He doesn't beg for her to stay. He simply disappears. And that absence hits harder than any outburst, because the moment she realizes he's serious, the entire game changes. She knows he won't break his own rules. She knows disrespect means losing him. And that's when attraction turns into obsession, not because he gave her more, but because he was willing to give nothing when his values were crossed. That is fear, not the fear of a man, but the fear of losing a man she can't control. Here's the psychological secret. Most women aren't obsessed with being loved. They're obsessed with the man who doesn't need their love to feel complete. That's why they chase the man who walks away. That's why they respect the one who doesn't fold. That's why they never forget the man who never begged. He wasn't cruel, he wasn't cold, he was unshakable. He had something 99% of men don't. Standards that weren't for sale. So when Machiavelli said it is safer to be feared than loved, he wasn't rejecting love. He was teaching that respect must come first, because without the fear of loss, love becomes lazy, and the deepest desire comes not from what you give, but from what you're willing to take away when it's not valued. She may love you, she may enjoy your company, but if she doesn't fear losing you, you're replaceable. But if she knows deep down that you'll never stay, where you aren't respected, you will never have to ask for her attention again, because she'll fight to earn yours. That's not cruelty, that's psychological gravity, that's dark attraction, that's the power of fear over love. Master the image. Machiavelli once said something brutally simple and terrifyingly true: it is not necessary to be good, it is necessary to appear good. This one line shatters the illusion most men live under, because from childhood we were told a lie, that if you're kind, loyal, hard-working, honest, people will respect you, women will desire you, the world will reward you. It won't, because the world doesn't see your truth. It sees your presentation. You can be loyal, you can be intelligent, you can be noble. But if you show up with weak posture, anxious tone and uncertain energy, no one will feel your worth, especially not a woman, because female attraction doesn't start with logic. It starts with perception. Not who are you, but what do I feel when I'm around you? She's not reading your resume, she's reading your energy. how you walk, how you speak, how you react when tested. That's where image becomes power. This isn't about lying, this isn't about pretending, it's about framing, because humans don't respond to truth. They respond to what feels true, and if you don't control how you're seen, someone else, her emotions, her biases, her past, will define you for her. So what does this mean in action? When you feel unsure, stand like a man who's certain. When you feel angry, speak like a man who controls fire. When you want to chase, do nothing. Let silence work for you, because in stillness there is power, in mystery there is attraction. Show her 80% of who you are, let her imagination build the rest, because what she creates in her mind will always be far more powerful than anything you could say. And that's the art, not of manipulation but of magnetic control. Drop voice slightly, calm, fear over love, image over truth. Control over chaos. Machiavelli didn't create the game, he just wrote the rules. Humans don't chase what they fully understand. They chase what they can't quite grasp. That's how obsession begins. Not with oversharing, but with silence. Not with convincing, but with presence. So stop explaining yourself. Stop trying to be understood. Start shaping your image. Because in a world ruled by perception, image isn't just everything. It's the game. Be the lion, be the fox. Every woman will test you, not to hurt you, but to see if you break. She'll shift her tone, she'll pull away, warm, then cold, then warm again. She'll say one thing and do another, all to see one thing. Do you collapse or do you hold? Most men never notice the test. They think she's confused, emotional, unpredictable, so they explain, they apologize, they try to fix things with words, and the moment they do, they lose the game. But centuries ago, Machiavelli gave the blueprint. A powerful man must be both a lion and a fox. The lion is power. He doesn't chase, he doesn't explain. His silence creates boundaries. His stillness commands respect. The fox is intelligence. He doesn't react to bait. He doesn't reveal his cards. He waits, then strikes with precision. If you're only the lion, strong, direct, forceful, she'll provoke you, and when you explode, she'll see you as unstable. Your power becomes noise. If you're only the fox, calm, clever, strategic, she'll like you but not trust you to lead. Charm without backbone is weakness, but if you are both, if she feels your strength in silence and your calculation in calm, she can't predict you. And that unpredictability, that tension, hooks her deeper than words ever could. When she's emotional, be the fox, observe, stay calm. When she crosses the line, be the lion, not with anger but presence. A stillness that says, this is my boundary, I don't move. She'll respect that, not because you yell, but because you don't flinch, not because you explain, but because you don't need to divide her world. Machiavelli's oldest law of power, divide and conquer. But this doesn't just rule empires, it rules minds. You don't control a woman with force. You don't fight her beliefs head on, you plant doubt, and let her do the rest, because when a woman feels certain she's in control, your job isn't to destroy her certainty, it's to crack it slightly. She says, I hate jealous men. You smile, calm, unbothered. That's what you think. That one line creates a micro-fracture in her confidence. Now she starts to question herself. What did he mean? Do I really believe that? Why can't I stop thinking about it? Division begins, not between you and her, but inside her. She loses control of the narrative. And you, the man who planted the seed, become the quiet voice in her head. Control isn't pressure, it's psychological tension, because curiosity is the softest form of submission. Reward in doses, punish all at once, Machiavelli wrote. Injuries must be inflicted all at once, but benefits given little by little. When someone crosses your boundary, don't react. Don't argue, act once. Clean, cold, final, silence, distance, absence, no yelling, no guilt trips, just the loss of your presence. That absence burns more than any insult, because she's left alone with her own thoughts. What did I do wrong? Why did he stop talking? And in that silence you become the mirror she can't escape. Now, When she returns with respect, reward her, but slowly, a glance, a smile, a single honest compliment. Then, nothing. You don't flood her with validation, you drip feed it, and she keeps playing the game, hoping for another drop. That's addiction. Not to you, but to your rhythm. Pain fast, pleasure slow. That's Machiavellian control. Watch her, don't chase her. Most men stare at her body. A Machiavellian man observes her behavior. He studies patterns, the way her tone shifts, the way she looks when she's pretending versus when she's real. He doesn't compliment, he doesn't chase. He reads, then when the perfect moment arrives, he drops one line, calm, detached. You speak differently when he's around. Silence. That's not flattery, it's truth, and truth from a man who doesn't seek approval pierces deeper than desire. Now she replays every moment. How did he see that? And from that moment you live rent-free in her mind. You didn't demand attention, you didn't fight for control, you simply saw what no one else did. That's not seduction, that's psychological dominance, control through absence. If you're always available, you become predictable, and predictable men are forgettable, disappear, quietly, without drama, without reason, not to punish, but to create a void, and the female mind cannot resist a void. When you vanish, her mind fills the silence. She replays your last glance, your last pause. She wonders, did I do something wrong? Was he pretending? Is he gone for good? Now she's no longer enjoying your attention. She's haunted by your absence. That's the final level of control, not by domination but by mystery. You don't chase, you don't explain, you become the question she can't stop asking. When you overstay, you vanish. No goodbye, no fight, not to create pain but to create space. And in that space she starts imagining you, not as you were, but as something larger, colder, more powerful. Now you're no longer a man. You're an unresolved question, a ghost of unfinished meaning. This isn't cruelty, it's contrast. You give warmth, then take it away. You show presence, then retreat into shadow. And that emotional whiplash, it cuts deeper than any compliment ever could. But listen, you don't disappear out of anger. You don't do it as a trick. You do it when your value is being taken for granted. Because timing matters. Absence only works when presence had power, and when you return, calm, unfazed, unmoved, she won't meet you with anger, she'll meet you with curiosity and fear, because now she knows you can walk away at any time and not flinch. That's not manipulation, that's gravity, and gravity doesn't chase, it pulls, so disappear just long enough for her to wonder if she ever really had you at all. Be her turning point. If you want to live in her mind forever, don't just be a man she liked. Be the moment her world changed. Not the boyfriend, not the fling. Be the shift in her story. Because women don't remember all the men they date. They remember the man who triggered something deep, something emotional, something they didn't know was waiting to be seen. This isn't about looks, gifts, or charm. It's about impact. Say what others are afraid to say. Look her in the eyes and name what she hides. Not to shame her, but to show her you see her, not just her beauty, not her image, but her truth. And when you do that, without seeking praise, without trying to impress, you don't just enter her life, you restructure it. Freud once said, emotional memory shapes desire. People crave what marks them emotionally. Machiavelli understood the same thing. The man who controls the story controls the mind, so don't force the story become the chapter she can't rewrite. Maybe you were the first man who didn't chase, the first who set a standard, and walked away when it was crossed. Maybe you made her question who she was, then left, not bitter, not begging, just gone, but not really, because in her mind, you stayed. You became the man tied to her transformation. That kind of presence doesn't fade with time. She might move on, she might laugh, she might even forget your name, but she'll never forget the version of herself that was born after you, because behind every smile, there's always a memory whispering, he changed me. And once you become the turning point in her story, you never have to fight for a place in her heart again. Final words control begins here. Let's be clear. These aren't lines or tricks. They're psychological structures designed to trigger deep, hidden switches in the female mind. Switches that move her from logic to obsession, from control to craving. Most men try to get attention. They chase, they perform, they please. But what you're building is presence. A presence that doesn't make her laugh. It makes her pause. It makes her feel even when she doesn't want to. You're not here to entertain. You're not here to prove anything. You're not her fan, her follower, or her therapist. You are the man who shifts her center of gravity, not by shouting, not by pleasing, but by saying one line that cuts through her walls and leaving it there. You create silence, you create mystery, you create space she can't fill with anyone else. This isn't softness, this is precision, and most men will never understand it, because they're addicted to approval. But if something inside you shifted while watching this, if something woke up, then this isn't just a video, it's a signal. A signal that you're done playing the game like everyone else, that you're done begging for attention, that you're ready to build gravity. So here's what I want you to do. If this message hits something real, comment the word control below. One word, no explanation. It means you're not here for entertainment. You're here to take the wheel. And if you're ready to go deeper, to master attraction, power, and emotional dominance through silence, subscribe now, because what comes next won't just teach you how to win her. It'll show you how to become the kind of man who doesn't need to.